A lot of actors take parts based on oh, this director and that actor and this much money, so I'm in.
Most people who watch Field of Dreams think they're seeing a magical baseball story. They remember Kevin Costner as Ray Kinsella, a farmer who builds a baseball field in his cornfield after hearing a mysterious voice. They remember ghostly baseball legends like Shoeless Joe Jackson stepping out of the corn to play again. For years, everyone believed this was simply a tribute to baseball and its golden age. The story seems straightforward enough. Ray hears a voice telling him, "If you build it, he will come." This message starts a chain of magical events that brings long-dead baseball players back to life. Most viewers see it as a story about giving Shoeless Joe Jackson and his teammates a second chance after they were banned from baseball in the 1919 Black Sox scandal. That's what the movie wants you to think at first. But according to the cast members and filmmakers, this surface reading misses the real point entirely. In interviews over the years, several actors have hinted that the ghosts in baseball games were never the main focus. Instead, they were a carefully crafted distraction, a beautiful illusion designed to guide Ray towards something he wasn't ready to face directly. The real story was never about baseball at all. The key detail that most people miss is in the voice's exact words. It didn't say, "If you build it, they will come." It said, "He will come," just one person. Shoeless Joe might have been the first ghost to appear, but he was never the he the voice was talking about. This clue appears right at the beginning of the movie, but most viewers completely miss it because they're caught up in the baseball magic. What the cast has revealed over the years completely changes how you understand every scene that follows. Behind all the magic, nostalgia, and mystery was something much more human and personal. The voice that Ray hears becomes the central mystery of the film, even though it's never fully explained. It has no name, no face, no clear origin. It just appears softly in Ray's cornfield with that famous line. At first, Ray thinks he might be losing his mind, and so do the people around him. But he listens, and the voice keeps coming back with more instructions. Ease his pain and go the distance. The big questions become, who is he? Whose pain needs easing? And what distance is Ray really being asked to travel? Many fans have interpreted the voice as something divine or magical, maybe an angel trying to restore justice to the banned baseball players. But if you listen carefully to what the cast and creators have said, you'll realize something different. The voice might not be coming from above at all. It might be coming from inside Ray himself. Kevin Costner and other cast members have suggested in interviews that the voice could be Ray's own subconscious speaking to him. Not a ghost or spirit, but the sound of guilt and longing that he's buried for years, finally breaking through. The messages the voice delivers aren't random. They're deeply personal and specific to Ray's life. When it says ease his pain, there's no clear subject mentioned, which has sparked decades of debate among fans. As the movie continues, we notice that nobody else ever hears the voice. Not Ray's wife, not his daughter, not even the ghostly players. It speaks only to Ray, and everything it asks him to do seems less about baseball and more about forcing him to confront something he's been avoiding. The voice first appears shortly after Ray mentions his difficult relationship with his father, and the more he listens, the more his journey turns inward. When Shoeless Joe Jackson first steps out of the cornfield, both the audience and Ray naturally assume he must be the person the voice meant. After all, Joe was banned from baseball after the Black Sox scandal, and his appearance feels like justice finally being served. It seems like a redemption story, and that's exactly what the film wants you to believe initially. But the more you watch, the more things don't quite add up. Shoeless Joe doesn't seem like someone who needs healing. He appears calm and at peace, with a playful and nostalgic attitude rather than bitterness or pain. When he talks about his past, he doesn't express any need for closure or redemption. His main concern seems to be whether he can return and bring other players with him. Cast members have revealed in interviews that Joe's role wasn't to be healed, but to help someone else heal. Think about Joe's behavior when he appears. He doesn't act like the central figure of the story. Instead, he becomes more of a guide, asking questions and testing boundaries. He's not trying to fix anything from his own past. He's helping Ray on his journey, pushing him further down the path he needs to travel. When other ghostly players arrive, Joe takes on a leadership role, organizing games and acting like a manager. But none of these ghosts are ever shown resolving old wounds or finding closure. They simply play, laugh, and eventually disappear. They were never the focus of the story. Shoeless Joe was the bait, the symbol that would convince Ray to take the leap of faith he needed. If the voice had told Ray directly to make peace with his long-dead father, would he have listened? Probably not. But the chance to meet his baseball idol, that was the hook that worked. The field was never built for Shoeless Joe. It was built through him, using his appeal to get Ray to do what he really needed to do. As the movie progresses, Joe even subtly acknowledges that he wasn't the one the voice meant. In a quiet moment when Ray asks what everything means, Joe simply responds, "You'll see." It's his way of confirming what many viewers never realized. Joe was never the destination. He was just the beginning. To understand who the voice was really calling for, we need to look at the source of Ray's pain. Ray Kinsella's relationship with his father isn't prominently featured when the movie begins. It's quietly buried beneath layers of baseball nostalgia and mysterious voices, but if you pay attention, the cracks start to show early. Ray's father, John Kinsella, is mentioned almost casually at first. Ray recalls that his father was a devoted baseball fan who idolized players like Shoeless Joe Jackson. But the memory quickly turns sour. Ray admits he mocked his father's dreams and saw them as small and insignificant. Then, with quiet bitterness, he says the line that changes everything. "I never got to tell him I was sorry." That single sentence reveals the real story. Behind Ray's calm exterior is unresolved guilt and lingering regret over a relationship that was cut short and never repaired. This isn't just a story about ghosts or baseball. It's about loss, about words left unsaid, about a son who walked away too soon, and a father who died before they could make things right. Ray's journey might seem random on the surface, building a field, traveling to Boston, chasing a reclusive writer, but each step pulls him deeper into themes of memory and emotional healing. Everything points back to his father. The voice's mysterious messages, ease his pain and go the distance, aren't about Shoeless Joe or any other character. They're about Ray himself. Kevin Costner has explained in interviews that Ray's story was never about baseball glory. It was about confronting something deeply personal. Every ghost, every detour, was part of breaking down Ray's emotional walls until he could face the truth. He wasn't just building a baseball field. He was building a bridge back to his father. As the story unfolds, Ray becomes quieter and more thoughtful. His urgency grows, but not for the ghosts, for something he can't name, something that stirs every time he looks at he field. That tension builds throughout the entire movie until the very end, when one last figure emerges from the corn. Near the end of Field of Dreams, there's a moment that feels almost too quiet compared to the rest of the film. There's no dramatic music, no slow-motion cameras, just a man standing in a baseball field, staring at someone he never thought he would see again. The figure stepping out of the corn isn't another ghostly baseball legend. It's John Kinsella, Ray's father, appearing young and calm, wearing catcher's gear. This is the moment the entire film has been building toward, though it's not announced or explained dramatically. Ray doesn't even recognize his father at first. He stumbles over his words, unsure how to speak to the man who shaped his life and then vanished from it. But as John turns to leave, Ray calls out the line that carries the emotional weight of the entire story. "Hey, Dad, want to have a catch?" That simple, quiet line isn't just an invitation to play catch. It's a surrender, a plea for forgiveness, and a final attempt to say everything Ray never could when his father was alive. In that moment, the entire movie shifts. It's no longer about ghosts or baseball. It's about closure and healing. Their game of catch isn't really a game at all. It's a ritual, a ceremony of reconnection. The baseball becomes a symbol of everything they lost and everything they're now reclaiming. There are no speeches, no confrontations, just a silent exchange between two people trying to reconnect across decades of regret. Each throw carries meaning, and each catch rebuilds trust. Many viewers miss how dramatically the tone changes during this scene. The music becomes softer, the camera movements slow down, and the ghostly players fade away. The field, which was once full of movement and activity, goes still. The entire world narrows down to just two people standing across decades of hurt and misunderstanding. The cast and filmmakers have confirmed that this scene was they're really about baseball. It was always about reconnection and showing love without needing words. They've described the catch as a metaphor, demonstrating how people can communicate and heal even when they can't find the right things to say. Looking back at the entire film, there were actually many hidden clues that Field of Dreams was never truly about Shoeless Joe or the other ghost players. These moments are subtle, but once you notice them, they change how you see everything. Watch how the camera behaves throughout the movie. It doesn't focus on the ghosts for long. Instead, it concentrates on Ray and his reactions. When Shoeless Joe first steps onto the field, the camera quickly cuts from his appearance to Ray's amazement and disbelief. Even during the baseball games, we're mostly watching Ray watch them. His emotional journey is always the focus. The voice's messages also make more sense when applied to Ray rather than the ghosts. Ease his pain. Whose pain is being eased? Ray's, not Joe's. Go the distance isn't about traveling miles. It's about taking an emotional risk, something Ray has been avoiding for years. The ghost players themselves offer another clue about the real meaning. They don't change or grow throughout the movie. They appear, play baseball, and disappear. They remain the same throughout the film. Ray is the only character who evolves, transforming from a skeptical farmer into a man finally at peace with his past. One filmmaking choice reveals the true meaning more than any other. When all the ghosts eventually leave the field, one stays behind. John Kinsella, Ray's father. He's the only ghost who doesn't walk back into the cornfield with the others. This moment says everything about what the field was really for. It wasn't built to host baseball games forever. It existed to repair something much deeper in Ray's heart. Even the music changes when John appears. The score becomes intimate and personal. The camera stops following crowds of people and focuses entirely on Ray. The whole story collapses down to one man and one moment of he. The famous line, "If you build it, he will come," is one of the most quoted phrases in movie history, but most fans have misunderstood what it really meant. The obvious answer seemed to be Shoeless Joe Jackson. Ray builds the field, Joe appears. Simple enough. But that was never the real meaning, and the cast has quietly acknowledged this for decades. The power of the line lies in its mystery. Who is he? Why does the message feel both calm and urgent? The movie never tells us directly because we're meant to go on the same emotional journey that Ray does. We're supposed to believe it's about baseball at first, only to discover it was always about something much deeper and more personal. The moment John Kinsella walks out of the cornfield, those 7 words are redefined forever. The he was never Shoeless Joe Jackson. It was Ray's father. The field wasn't just a magical ballpark. It was a bridge between past and present, father and son, a space where Ray could finally confront what he had buried deep inside himself. Cast members and director Phil Alden Robinson have confirmed this interpretation in various interviews. They've explained that the field was meant to represent emotional reconciliation. It was never about logic or literal magic. It was about taking a leap of faith and trusting a voice that speaks from the heart, even when the mind cannot explain it. Ray never fully understood what he was building while he was building it. He just knew it mattered somehow. That's what makes the line so memorable and powerful. It speaks to anyone who has ever carried regret, anyone who wishes they could fix something from the past, anyone who still hopes for one more chance to make things right. If you build it, he will come. Wasn't a prophecy or a promise from some external force. It was a message from deep within Ray himself. If you create the space for healing, the purse on you need most will return, even if only in memory, even if only for a moment. And in the end, that's exactly what happened. What's most surprising is how many fans never saw this deeper meaning, even after multiple viewings. But for those who do understand it, Field of Dreams becomes something far more powerful than just a baseball story. It becomes a meditation on family, forgiveness, and the possibility of healing old wounds. Decades after its release, Field of Dreams continues to touch audiences. But for those who grasp its hidden meaning, it hits on an entirely different level. On the surface, it's a story about faith, baseball, and magic. Underneath, it's something much more powerful, a deep exploration of regret, forgiveness, and the very human desire to make peace with our past. This is why the story still affects people so strongly. Viewers who watch the film again later in life often say they see it completely differently the second time around. That's not an accident. The emotional weight of Field of Dreams grows as you get older, because the more time passes, the more we all carry unresolved moments with people we've loved and lost. For Ray, that person was his father. For viewers, it could be anyone, a parent, a sibling, a friend, anyone we wished we could talk to one more time. That's what makes the movie's final moments so devastating and healing at the same time. When Ray asks, "Hey Dad, want to have a catch?" he's not just reaching out to a ghost. He's reaching through time itself, repairing something broken without needing to explain or analyze it. Over the years, cast members have shared how fans often approach them with tears in their eyes, telling personal stories about their own fathers and families. For some people, watching Field of Dreams became a way to process grief and loss. For others, it was the inspiration they needed to pick up the phone or reconnect with someone they hadn't spoken to in years. The film didn't just tell a story. It opened emotional doors that people had kept closed for a long time. That's why the cast has always stood by the film's emotional core. In interviews, they continue to emphasize that the field was never really about baseball. It was about healing, about building something honest and meaningful, even if no one else understood it. It was about having the courage to listen to that quiet voice inside that says, it's not too late to make things right. For anyone who still thinks Field of Dreams is just a sports movie, they've missed the point entirely. The true magic was never in the baseball game. It was in the silence between father and son, in the simple act of throwing a baseball back and forth, in the chance to start over, even if only for one precious moment. Maybe that's why the field never really disappears at the end of the movie. Because for those who understand what it was truly built for, the possibility of healing and reconnection never really leaves us. The field exists wherever we're brave enough to build it, wherever we're willing to listen to that voice that tells us to take one more chance on love, forgiveness, and coming home.